Hello everybody, welcome back to this tutorial about frames per second and slow motion. Now we have been coming to the tutorial number 4, and now we're going to talk about slow motion and edit video shot done with the Canon 7D. We have a 50 frames per second shot, and you know this half speed editing will be the same if you had a 60 frames per second shot. I just want to remind you about the next tutorial will be about slow motion with the GoPro Hero 3, where we will be slow motion for a video shot done all way up to 240 frames per second, and both in this tutorial and this number 5 tutorial, we are going to do the same in QuickTime Pro. We are going to do it in iMovie, we are going to do it in GoPro Cineform, in After Effects and Premiere Pro, so we can see the different software and how you do the slow motion, slow down in the different software. And again, I want to remind you about you can go to yetanother-solution.blogspot.com. If you want to, you can download some source file if you need a 50 frames per second video shot, a windsurfer, or if you need a 240 frames per second video shot just for you to play around with, so you can test out your software. So I also want to remind you about that you can download this slow motion convert table. In this tutorial, when we are going to do it in 50 frames per second, you know, that's a really easy part, because then we are going to do the half speed. So if you see here, we have the source file 50 frames per second, and if we kind of want it in half speed, then if we are in I can take it at a QuickTime Pro for example, you have to do it in 2 parts, or if we are in iMovie, you have to put in 50% to slow it down to the half speed, and then we end up with 25 frames per second. And the table is also kind of nice if you want to have control over the frames per second, because if you have a 60 frames per second shot, I think it's kind of important to keep it half of that, and then end up with 30 or 29.97 frames per second. So we kind of get it clean between the PAL and NTSC system. I'm going to talk something more about the difference there in the next tutorial, but right now we are going to slow down this shot done with the Canon 7D. I'm not going to go into detail where in the menu you find this different options for frames per second, but as you can see in the PAL setup, you can find this 1280 x 720, you can find this 50 frames per second. So yeah, you can also put up the 7D to NTSC system, and then you have this 60 frames per second. So now we are going to slow down to half speed, and we are first going to do it in the QuickTime Pro. And you know, it's so cool with QuickTime Pro, because in the QuickTime Pro you can do this half speed very fast, and it's really nice to have this QuickTime Pro together with other software, because you can do it so very quickly. And if you remember from the tutorial number 2, when we was having a look at the different frames and took it up from 1 second to 2 seconds, it's kind of the equal thing you're going to do here in the QuickTime Pro. You mark the timeline, and then you stretch it over all the timeline, and then you have this half speed directly. So now I'm going to go out of this, and I'm going to go directly to the QuickTime player. So as I also told you it was in tutorial number 3 about that you also are able to go directly into audio video controls, and you can have a playback speed to half speed directly like this. But as everybody know, when you save it, it's not saved in half speed, so then you have to do something different. And the way you do this is that you go up to you mark all the area, all the timeline. You can do it here as well. Select all, and then you copy all. You can do it with the shortcut on the keyboard as well, Control or Command key. I am on Mac, so I am on Command C. Command C, and then we marked it all, and then we're going to paste it from the end of the timeline there. So as you see, I now have pasted in the same video clip after the first video clip, and then we are going to edit, select all again. And here's the really cool tricky part, because now we have saved all the video. We have 2 video source there. So here we have now a 6 second. It was 6 second. The source file was 6 second. But as you can see here now, we are in 12 second in total. So if we then go up to edit, add to selection and scale, then we add this video all the way over all the timeline. So add to selection and scale, and then directly we have this video shot in slow motion. So this is a really nice way to do slow motion really quick in QuickTime Player Pro. And here for doing this you have to have the QuickTime Pro version. So you know, that is really nice. And if you have even more frames per second, we are going to do that in the next tutorial. Then you have to just paste in more versions of the video you already had. Okay, now we are going to further on. We are going to have a look at the iMovie, and in the iMovie it's really easy. Now you have to go to the half speed and go to 50%. So now when we are in iMovie, it's kind of nice to know a couple of things before we start to slow down. If you see here on the left side of the bottom of the left side of the video source, you can see here that it's 50, so there's for the 50 frames per second. You can see the same for the source file we're going to slow down in next tutorial. You have this 240, so this is kind of a nice information. And as you can see it in yellow, so I think the reason for why it's in yellow is because it's kind of tells us that it's not the same into the same system as in the project. So it's very important also to go into the project properties to be sure about we are into the same system. And if you have a video shot done with 60 frames per second, yes, it's really okay to then slow down to 30 frames per second, as the source file will, the project file will be in 30 frames per second. But when you have a 50 frames per second source file, then it's best to go to the PAL system and go to the 25 frames per second. And it's an interesting thing that when you have 25 chosen, as you can see here, now the 50 information is then gone. To be honest, I wish that the 50 was there still, that, you know, it was in green or something, so you'd still have the information about the frames per second in the source file. But as I already have shown you, you can do that in the QuickTime Player and have a look at how many frames per second you shot and done in. So then, you know, then it's really easy. Then you can just take this 6 second shot up here. So it's if you have something in the project file, you will not be able to do anything with the project properties. So here it's locked right now. But now we are going to slow down this. You can do it 2 ways. Normally I go in here, and it's a little bit hard to choose this because I have this screen filming at the same time. Sorry, I don't know why this is a problem. Then you go into clip adjustment, and then you can go directly in there and choose the speed, or you can go in under Windows and clip adjustment there. So there we have this speed here, and then you just go directly and choose 50 frames per second. And as you can see now the clip is in 12 seconds. So that's a kind of control that you really are in half speed. So now you have this slow motion directly, and it's so nice that iMovie have this option. I think that earlier versions of iMovie did not have this option for have more frames per second. So that was the iMovie. So now we are going to go further on. We're going to lock the iMovie down, and we are going to go further on. I have to have a look at the PowerPoint presentation. So now we have done the half speed in iMovie. We are now going to do the same in GoPro Cineform. So then we take it up, and okay, we have GoPro Cineform here. So here we have the same. Here we have again some information in the source file. You have this up here it's a 6-second shot. No, it's not there. The information about 6 seconds is here, and it's in 50 frames per second, so that's a really nice information. So then I had marked it, and then you go into advanced settings, and as you remember in the table, convert table, if you want it in a half speed, then you choose, for me it's in 50 frames per second video shot, I choose 25 frames per second, and then press OK. And then I press add to conversion lists, and then this come up here. And a nice thing here that you then get information about, you will end up with 25 frames per second, and the result will end up with 12 seconds. And now I'm going to show you that it's a bug in the GoPro system. I don't know, but when I do the convert here, as you can see, something happened, something wrong happened, it crashes. I tried to figure out how to solve that. It was a lot of information about that on the internet. I tried to figure out, but I kind of gave up because I'm not using GoPro Cineform. I use the other software. But I found that that's, you know, the nice thing anyway about this is that I'm going to open up again the Cineform. The nice thing is that when you choose, or when I tested out these originally files, I'm going to remove that clip, remove clip, and I'm going to import. I'm going to import the original file. It's the Windsurfer here. Open. And by some reason, the original file directly from the Canon 7D, it's working in the GoPro Hero. So the nice thing is that you want to use the Cineform Studio for converting to 50 frames per second. You can use that for converting, for instance, 50 or 60 frames per second video shot, and then you can use this file you have exported out. You can put it in other editors if your editor not support higher frames per second. Okay, so now then with the source file selected, you can then choose the input. I'm just going to do this for kind of control over the time of the clip. We are going to slow down, so I'm going to go from 1 second to 5 seconds. So then we have in total 4 second clip. If we slow down that to half speed, for sure we then end up with 8 seconds. So then we go in under advanced settings. Under advanced setting, I set the quality to high, and the frame rate for me, it's the source file is in 50 frames per second, and I'm going to choose 25 frames per second. If you have had a source file with the 60 frames per second, then you just choose 29.97 frames per second, as you can see also in the convert table as you can download. Okay, and then press OK, and then you add this clip to the conversion list, and then here in the conversion list you can see that now the clip will be 8 seconds and it's in 25 frames per second. And it's really nice to know that this will now be saved to the desktop. You can here change the directory for that. That's kind of nice to know that when you now press the convert, this will be converted, and as you can see here up in the right hand side, then here we have a new file. So now this file has been converted. I can press directly on that one, and then we will open the QuickTime Player 7 Pro, because I have this default opening QuickTime Player 7. So here we can see that it's directly in slow motion, and if we want to do some more, we can also go in under step 2, the edit, and here we have this imported converted clip. So kind of from the step 1 into step 2, this file here is directly imported in here. So then when we choose this one and then press here, we have this directly slowed down into half speed. So there you can do some more thing with it, as maybe you want to do some changes in the color like here, and then export it. But that's another kind of tutorial. So now we are going to go further on with editing in After Effects. I'm going to just have a look at the PowerPoint presentation. We are now going to open up the After Effects, and then we are going to halve the speed down 50% there as well. And here we are going to use the times to X factor, and the times to X factor here will be 200. So now we open After Effects. Sorry, I'm just going to hide that down first so it's kind of not in our way. Okay, we open After Effects. There we are. And as you can see, After Effects there. As you can see here, we have this clip here. It's all the timeline here is in 6 seconds. So I'm going to take care of that we have this 12 seconds in the timeline. But before we start up with that, we can see that if we press on the source file, import it into After Effects, then we can see that this source file here, we have 50 frames per second information here, and it's 1280 times 720 clip. We can also see here that the composition here is in 50 frames per second. So I think we're going to change that. So with this composition selected, we can then go into composition settings, and we can then choose the frame rate. Again, we are going to choose the 25 frames per second. If you have had 30 frames per second, your choice will you will have been choosing 29.97. But now we are going to have it for 25 frames per second. And as you can see, the duration here is 6 seconds. So then we just go for 12 seconds. And there we are. As you can see here, now we have the 25 frames per second here. And here the timeline is in 12 seconds. So the stretch factor, you can find these different places, but I'm going to just right click on the source file here in the timeline. And here you have this time, and here you have this time stretch, and here you choose the time stretch factor. So now it's in 100, and now when it's at 100, it's in the real time, it's 6 seconds. But when you choose 200, as you can see here, now it's in 12 seconds. So then when I press the RAM preview here, so you will then see we have slow motion. By some reason, when doing this filming my screen, it's, you know, the frame rate is not correct, so then we have this red here because of the filming of this screen, the tutorial filming. So but now it's converted to 25 frames per second and slow down. So that was the After Effects. Now we are going to hide that down, and then we are going to go further on with we can have a look at our presentation here. So the next thing we are going to look at is the Premiere Pro. That's the last one. Okay, we are going to open up the Premiere Pro. To be honest, I'm not an expert in Premiere Pro. I'm more familiar with After Effects. But here again, you can after imported it, you can then go to the speed, duration, and then you can here choose the percent of speed. So here it's the 100%. It's, you know, it's the same as the iMovie. So here, if you choose 50 frames, no 50 frames, I mean 50%, then you end up with a 12 second. So here, then we can test this. So as you can see directly, we now have half speed. So I think that's all I'm going to say about the Premiere Pro. You have also to be sure about that the project are in the correct frame per second, that the project are in 25 frames per second. Since our source file here is in 50 frames, and if it had been in 60 frames, you should have choose the 29 or 29.97 or 30 frames per second. Okay, so that was it. That was all we wanted to say about slowing down for the source fire from Canon 7D. So I really hope you thought this was useful. If you later on want to go directly into some of those softwares, you can then go into the quick guide, where I'm going to go into the slow motion very quickly into the different softwares. I hope you also want to join me for the next tutorial, the tutorial number 5. We are going to cover up the same thing in QuickTime Pro, iMovie and so on, but then we are going to slow down even more frames per second. So I hope we will be back then. Bye bye.